Welcome to the Sports Card Lessons Podcast. I'm your host, Big Ken. Whether you're watching on YouTube or listening on a streaming service, please like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. You'll be notified whenever I drop any new content. Welcome. Thanks for being here. How is everyone doing? Happy Sunday. Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers, stepmothers, grandmothers out there. Enjoy your day. It's a beautiful sunny day here in the Northeast after, I think, 8 days of rain. So we're happy to have some sun here. I know the nurseries are going to be very packed today with people out buying flowers now that the sun's out and we can actually get out. I'm super excited today. A lot of things going on. I have a lot of good hobby news for me. I had that redemption, the Caitlin Clark auto that I got the card back. I sent it to PSA. First time I've been issued an upcharge because the card did gem. It's a 10, so I'm super excited about that. I got an email from Topps that tomorrow, Monday, my Jaden Daniels on-card auto orange to 25 is going to be delivered. That was another redemption that I purchased that I submitted, and people thought I was crazy. They're like, oh, just sell that thing. You never know when you're going to get that. And I said, you know what? It's Jaden Daniels. Hopefully, Topps does it a little different than Panini, and yeah, the card is shipped. It's going to be here tomorrow. So it's just some exciting things going on. It's going to be a fun week for me this week in the hobby. Today's episode, I'm going to start this episode out by saying, with anything in life, no matter what you do, business, finance, hobby, relationships, anything, you have to be willing to adapt and to change. And just foresee changes coming. Like in anything, if you want to be successful, right, you just have to be willing to adapt and change and just keep up with what's going on. And for me, this past week here in the hobby, planning out my next 3 months, shows I'm going to, and what I think is the best strategy for me in the hobby, just moving forward. And I know I'm always talking about staying in your lane or changing lanes in different lanes. And I say this because I drive a lot, and in my mind, it's just similar when I'm driving on the highway and I'm looking ahead. What's my next move? Right? Do I have to get off the next exit? Do I have to change lanes? Do I just want to get around somebody who's going slow? Whatever, right? It's always looking ahead. It's just making a plan. And when I'm driving, I'm like, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to go around that person there, or I'm going to go here, speed up to get off this exit. Whatever. I'm making a plan. And I'm changing lanes all the time in the hobby, right? Or on the highway, and I do the same here in the hobby. So this week, sitting back, getting ready for this Causeway show, I also had a conversation with the higher ups at the National, knowing I won't be getting a booth this year. The chances are very slim, but being that close on that wait list, that I'm almost guaranteed next year. And I don't want to jinx it and say I am guaranteed. That's why I'm saying I'm almost guaranteed for next year. And I just booked the West Coast Card Show, formerly the Burbank Show, in Anaheim in August. I'm looking at cards I have out at PSA. In PSA orders, I have well over 100 cards out at PSA being graded. Looking at my inventory here in the office, including all those Don Russ PSA 10 cards I just talked about on the last episode. Like, just what I should be doing with these. Should I hold them? Should I sell them? Should I, So I made some decisions on those football cards. On Friday, I had everything ready to go, and I was like, you know what? I'm bringing those cards. I came back to the office. I pulled those cards out. I spent an hour or so just going through pricing all those cards and getting them ready to go to the show on Saturday. I said, I'm going to put them in my case. We'll see what happens. Something was driving me. I just didn't know what it was, but I just felt like all of a sudden, if you, I don't know if you're like me, but you get these ideas and all of a sudden you can't get them out of your head. And you're like, you know what? Now that somehow that seed is planted in there, it's like the guy that walks up to your table to buy some wax and he says, yeah, 4 boxes, right? He can't just buy 2. He has to buy all 4 because what happens if he chose the wrong boxes, right? So he has to take all 4 blasters and not. So it's the same thing, right? You get this thing stuck in your head and you're like, I just have to do it, right? And what these cards, I mean, when I say I have over 100 cards, I mean, those are all grading bills, right? If nothing else, even if I sell these cards, I could pay for all the other cards I have coming back from grading, including a Caitlin Clark upcharge, right? Yeah, so Friday night, priced all the cards, packed them up. Saturday morning, up early, Rich Zwittlebug Cards and Billy of Bill and Billy. They met at my house Saturday morning. We all drove up to Boston together to the Causeway Show at TD Garden. The setup for that show starts at 9 or 8, and the show starts at 9. And I'm going to break the show down a little bit later, but I'm going to start by saying that we got there at 8:45. I had sold 95% of my football and 95% of my Caitlin Clark cards. All those cards I just talked about that I priced on Friday night, I sold them to all one person, somebody I know, someone I've dealt with in the hobby before. And if you're at shows here in the Northeast, you know it's my man Mikey at Mikey.sportscards on Instagram. Like I said, someone I've sold cards to before, someone who pays strong. And some of the cards that I had that he bought were duplicates, and I decided, you know what? I'm just going to hold a couple of those duplicates back, just so I have something to put in my case, right, for the show. And who knows? Maybe I'd make a little more money on it, even though I felt he paid super strong. And what I noticed just on those cards alone, that people were coming up who wanted to buy those cards, whether they were showgoers, other dealers, flippers walking the show. They offered me less on those cards than I sold them to him for, and could not get to the price where I said, look, this is where I need to be. And they're like, yeah, no, I can't get there. And I just decided to hold those cards. I know how to get in touch with Mikey, right? I could sell these cards to him at any time if I wanted to. So why am I going to sell them off at the show for anything less? And it was at this moment of the show that I decided, you know what? Because of what I have going on over the next 3 months, I can't be carrying, 50 or 100 of these, $60 to $100 slabs with me to these shows. So it's my thought to start building an inventory that will a little bit easier to travel with, going out to the National, going out to Chicago, going to California. And right now I'm working on a Dallas show for the fall. I'm not saying I'm not going to keep grading these cards, because it's what I like to do. I like to buy these singles and open the wax and grade these cards, because I think I've cut out a nice little market for myself doing that. But I think my outlet might be a little bit different. Like, I can bring these to local shows, but if I'm going to be traveling, I don't want to be lugging all these hundreds of cards on a plane. So just start to planning ahead, going to these bigger shows, having some bigger inventory, a smaller amount of cards, higher dollar amount. Some of the inventory that I was building over the last few months for the National, I'm going to bring to the West Coast Card Show now. So that will be my National, right? The West Coast. And I think my plan for the National is going to be a little bit more relaxed. Meeting up with friends. This is going to be, I should have counted this out, five or six Nationals. And up until last year, I set up at the National every year. And I feel like I miss out on a lot of stuff. And last year, it was a last minute thing. I didn't plan very well. I ended up doing the SoCo Expo, which I was happy to do that, but that tied up my night every night. It was Wednesday to Saturday, right, for that. So it was at the National in the morning. I'd go home in the I'd go back to the hotel. I'd change, I'd eat, I'd get ready, I'd go to the SoCo, and I was there all night. So again, I think I missed out on a lot of stuff that I want to be a part of this year. So this year, to me, I think the National is just going to be more of a social event for me, where I can just really partake in a lot of the different events that I've missed out on over the years that people talk about and say, wow, you should do this and do that. I said, well, I can't because I'm setting up. I could, I can't just leave my table during the day or at night, something else going on. I'm doing this. I can't do that. So now I'm going to leave my time open, just going to make time with friends. And one of the other things I'm trying to do, which is another reason I was in talks with the people at the National, try to figure out how to do some live content out there. Just doesn't have to be, over the top, but just try to make some content out there, another lane, just another thoughts of trying to get something done. But this year's National is definitely going to be more of a social event, social aspect, and not so much of the card aspect, if that makes sense. It's the cards that bring us all together, right? I mean, it is the cards that bring us together, but I think it's the people too. I think it's the cards that start it, right? And it brings us, the people, together. And I think this year is going to be a year more of the people than the cards for me. And knowing that next year again will be, and this may be, I mean, once I get a booth, I should be able to keep it, right? So this may be the last year I'll be able to do more of a social event out there, be setting up again, starting again next year. So, and as far as West Coast Card Show, it'll be my first time doing this show. I'm really looking forward to it. And if you've been there, if you have any tips or tricks or pointers, definitely hit me up on IG. Always accepting good advice. I'm really looking forward to that. In fact, my son lives out there 10 minutes away, so I'm going to go early and stay late out there too and spend some time with him. So it's going to be fun. I'm really looking forward to it. Last season, I did an episode called Chasing Goats. And the plan, that plan, I'm going to use that mindset, but try to have a variety of liquid and rare and scarce cards, not kind of, get all one or all the other. Kind of just a decent variety of that, in a different, in a variety of prices as well. when you travel to these shows, of course, you're renting cases. So it really comes down to I just want to be able to put enough cards in two cases, right? When I get there, I can always buy cards when I'm there, after I'm selling cards and things like that. But really try to get my traveling, and I want to call it my traveling inventory because I don't want this to sound like I'm getting rid of all this and I'm going to do all that because I always talk about knowing shows and setting up at shows. And if you set up as many shows as I do, you get to know the shows and you know what works at shows. So some shows, I'll take all my dollar boxes out and I'll fill up a whole table, right? I'll buy an extra table just to put all my dollar boxes. I say dollar box, my singles boxes out there, because I know they're gonna cover that table and some, right? Because I know that they're gonna sell well. And other shows, I know people aren't interested in that stuff or they don't sell well. People are looking for higher end stuff and things like that. So, uh, a lot of the local shows that I do very well with my singles boxes. I do very well with the lower end slabs. People like to buy those slabs. Um, not so much at the higher end shows, not so much at the shows I travel to. And you know, this year this in 2025, I only traveled to Atlanta to Culture Collision, but I did very well there. I did very well at that show. I knew the inventory to bring because I've done the show before, so I knew what inventory to bring, and I knew, where the trade night was, the best where to go, the best time to be there, the best places to set up. All that makes a big difference. So when I'm saying earlier, if you have tips, tricks, pointers, I mean, these are the things. Like if you were to ask me, saying, "Hey, I'm going to this show," I would tell you everything I knew about it. I would say, "Hey, trade nights in this hotel lobby. You're better off getting there on the early side, grab a table in the main, right, or something like that, or on this side or that side, because the people will be coming, and sometimes in some of these places, location is everything. So just little things like that. So uh, when it comes to the bigger shows too, that I go to, I find that for whatever reason. I don't know if the hobby has done this to me, right? When I go to the national and I go to bigger shows, I want to see bigger cards. I want to see great cards. I don't want to go there and see the same cards that I see at the local VFW show or the Knights of Columbus. I'm going out there. I want to see great. I'm going to a great show. I want to see great things. I don't know if that makes sense, but in my mind. So when I'm getting ready to go to a big show, I'm looking at my inventory and I'm like, no, no, no. People are not going to. I just don't think people are going to want to even look at that stuff, right? I don't. I want to stand out a little bit. Um, I don't want to get lost in the sea of tables with the usual cards. I just want to just like to have different cards in my case. That's going to stop people and say, oh, there's something I haven't seen. Oh, or that's a nice card, or anything like that. That's going to get people. It's going to differentiate me from other people, especially at a bigger show. Um, so that's how my mind works when I'm getting ready, to go to travel to some of these bigger shows. Um, and as far as the small stuff too, I mean, looking at this NFL draft class, um, to me, it's probably a good time now. I'm going to be able to slow down on some prospecting with a weak draft class. I may be back in a few months saying, "Oh my God, I need to get every Cam Ward card," like or somebody. Maybe somebody's going to pop out there, but this last draft class with all these different quarterbacks, it was easy to all these different teams. It was easy to buy blasters and megas and whatever because it could be Washington or Denver or Atlanta or there's so many different quarterbacks you could hit in there and moving into this new one coming out, I think it's going to be a good time for me just to slow down on ripping wax. There's not going to be anyone to chase for me, and I certainly save some money on ripping or getting into breaks. I talked about not breaking, being out of breaks for 30 days, and today is day 24, but who's counting, right? I can honestly say I don't miss it as much as I thought I was going to, but that's probably a whole other episode. Um, but I still have the Facebook and the Instagram. I still have everything popping up, and I'm going through and I'm looking at it. And I even watched a couple. There, and I would, even though I wasn't in the break, I was still as disappointed for everybody else when nothing got pulled out of some of this stuff, or just a lot of crap came out of it. So, like I said, I don't miss it as much as I thought I would. Some of my pickups from the Causeway Show, I'll show you these before I get into the episode. One of my favorite pickups, and Dad came to the table with his son, who pulled this out of a blaster. It's Juju Watkins. It's the Orange Shimmer, numbered to 65. It's an auto, and if you're on YouTube, I'm holding that up. Super excited for that card. There was only two of us really at that show selling WNBA stuff, and I was happy that he came to my table first, because I know the other guy would have bought this card as well. So I had a 50-50 chance of that card coming to me yesterday. So I was psyched about that. I picked up this Don Russ Optic Bryce Young pink PSA 10. Not a big card, but when you're going through people's cases and some of these cards like this, and you're like, well, I mean, he's got a chance to bounce back this year, and then you start looking at what the prices are on this card. I'm like, oh my god, it's like a no-brainer. Another nice one here, 23 Mosaic Patrick Mahomes Genesis PSA 10. That'll be a hold card to the summer. Happy to get that. And this year, this probably another similar favorite pickup. 2017 Don Russ Optic rookie phenom jersey, Patrick Mahomes. So it's a patch, BGS 9. Super excited to have that card too. Price was right on that one. I think this is the worst time of year to be selling Patrick Mahomes. That's why I never see him in the cases. So when I get a chance to buy him, and we're going to go off current comps on some of these cards, I'm like, perfect. Yeah, I'll buy it. I will buy it. So I'll start off by saying, I'm going to recap Causeway, saying that what I always say about this show, one of my favorite shows, love this show. This one was a weird one. This show is just a weird show. This time of year, for the last, I think, I know 2, maybe 3 years. I think 3 years. In May, Card Vault would do the Fenway show, which was usually a massive show. I mean, there's just so much traffic. 2 days of traffic was always packed there. They didn't do the Fenway show this year. They kept this venue. So I just assumed all those same people would make it to the venue. The day started out slow as far as foot traffic. There's 4 sections of this show. There's a separate room for Pokemon. There's a main room when you first walk in. Then there's a back room that's it's really kind of split in 3. It's one room, and you have to remember the venue is a nightclub. So there's a main floor, there's a 2 steps down to a lower floor, and then there's VIP booths up top. But you're all the VIP booths to the main floor. That's really like a sound stage where I am set up. And then there's a lower area, which I'm not even sure if they just put tables and chairs down there, whatever. And then they're all like looking down on a main stage. So, um, and for whatever reason for this show, I've set up at the same spot for the last 3 shows, but for whatever reason at this show, that back room did not get much foot traffic. And I know the front room was crowded all day because I would walk around, um, and I would see how crowded that room was, and I said, "I just don't understand how the people aren't making it to the back for this show." For me, as far as sales, after making that massive sale with Mikey in the morning, I didn't sell much the rest of the day. My singles boxes had weak sales. My showcase had weak sales. I didn't have a lot of great inventory. So I do want to say that too, as far as sales for me. I mean, my meat and potatoes of 2 cases, one was Caitlin Clark and the other was football. So Mikey wiped out both of those. So now I'm sitting on inventory that, you know, I'm not going to go as far as saying it's stale, but it's inventory that I've had in my case for a little while now, probably for, 3 or 4 shows that really hasn't sold up until this point. So it's time to start making some decisions on some of that inventory too. Um, I noticed there were a number of people who were kind of first timers at shows. They were coming to sell their cards, but really didn't understand the whole dance of selling your card at a card show. Someone's taught them enough how to know what the value of their cards are, and they just showed up and they just expect you to buy them at that price. And luckily it wasn't busy. Always trying to help, always trying to explain to people, like, you know, I understand this is the price, but no one's going to pay you here at that. If that's what you want, that's fine. You can go table to table, but I don't think anybody's going to pay you. There's going to be You're going to get paid under what the some people got it. They understood when you explained it. Other people, they just got upset and walked away. They didn't want to hear it. But I noticed them struggling, those people struggling at other tables too, getting upset, like, hey, I know this card's worth 400, buy it for 400. And people are like, no, I'll give you 320 or I'll give you 300. And they're like, well, what are you talking about? The card's worth 400. So just didn't really kind of understand. I call it the dance at a card show, but just understand, you know, selling a card, showing up at a card show to sell your card to a dealer. I know my guy, Rich and Billy, they were near the front room. They had a great day. They had lots of foot traffic, lots of sales over there. And sometimes that's just what happens at these shows. There's no rhyme or reason, and it could be a lot of the inventory too. Like I said, I know me selling most of my great inventory, the stuff I knew would sell, I just sold it all out at once before the show even started, right? So, I probably didn't have that much to offer throughout the day for other people. And these pickups that I had, I didn't put them back in my case. I've earmarked them for something else. I was thinking, though, again, know the show, with my singles boxes, they've killed it at this show, the last 3 shows. I mean, I've really done well. And it was interesting that I didn't get many people picking through those boxes at all. They kind of came up, they looked, went through a bit and walked off. And I don't know if it's a timing thing too, where people are coming through these football because they were pulling these cards out to grade them or do whatever, because football and basketball cards like that. And it may be that time too where they're like, well, I can't grade anymore. I can't get anything graded for the national. I can't get graded for, so there may be some other reasons too why those singles boxes may be slowing down as well. But I do know there's usually at this show, there's a couple of like whatnot guys that come in and will buy like a couple $100 worth of single cards, and I didn't see any of those guys show up at this show. Um, one of the biggest I'm going to talk about this. Usually I don't talk about anything negative on here. I'm never a negative guy, but something really disappointing happened at the show at the end of the day. And I'm not sure what transpired up into the point where it 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 fell on the floor next to me. That's where I'm going to start. Um, I don't know what happened, but right next to my table, an hour before closing, I'm standing there talking with a customer, and three security guards with, I'm pretty sure it was a dealer, just came tumbling down on the floor right next to my table. Um, and we're all in shock, just standing there. Uh, and then while they're on the floor, the security guards are roughing this guy up on the floor, like they're giving him the business while he's down there, and everybody's just standing there watching this. I mean, we're at a card show. uh, I assume the guy was impaired, whether it was alcohol or drugs or something. But regardless, what was going on here, that wasn't any way to handle it. As you know, I worked in a prison for 30 years. And usually if an inmate took a swing at an officer or a staff member, and they got taken down to the ground, they got roughed up like that. I mean, that stuff happens, right? But this is not prison. This is a card show. Uh, and the security guards, because this venue is a nightclub, these were nightclub security guards. And not only nightclub security guards, these are downtown Boston nightclub security guards. It's like professional nightclub security guards. You've got kids, you've got families, you've got people all standing around. This was not the time or place for what was. I don't even know what was happening up to there, but regardless, a peaceful escort out the front door is what should have happened. A peaceful escort out the front door, like, buddy, let's go out the front door. Not let's grab this guy and go tumbling onto the floor and start elbowing him and kneeing him. And I don't know. I think there were a few people that were standing there watching this happen that were very upset. And like I said, I have no idea what transpired. I have no idea what happened before this showed up on the floor next to my table. But I know people that were standing around were pretty upset at this whole situation, and I don't think anybody cared. I don't know. It's nothing I've seen at a card show, and it's something I hope I never see again at a card show. And that's all. It's just very disappointing the way that was handled. So that was the day. I don't think the foot traffic was as much as we saw in the fall and winter. And, it could be that time of year too. Here it is. It's spring. It's Mother's Day weekend, right? There's a lot of kids with sports obligations, just a lot going on. A lot happens in the spring here in the Northeast. So, and just being nice outside, right? Just being nice outside. I have two shows next weekend. Saturday, Titan Card Show, Yorktown, New York. And Sunday, the New Britain Card Show in New Britain, Connecticut. If you're at either of those shows, come look for me. Come by, say hello. And I'll be back Thursday with a new episode with the Hobby Chop. I want to thank everyone for tuning in. And if you like what you hear, please definitely subscribe. And most importantly, tell a friend and spread the word. Till next time, take care of yourselves and everyone around you.